Welcome back to Jenny's World, keeping it fresh, keeping it real, and definitely keeping it middle-aged. Now don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and also subscribe and like my YouTube channel. And also, if you can, take the time to look at my website. All the details are down below. Now today, I'm going to be talking about the coronavirus. It's a hot topic, has been a hot topic for the last few weeks and months, and I think it's going to be an ongoing hot topic for the months to come. Now, in the last update, we talked about the scarcity of food and especially loo roll. I don't really think that situation has changed. I think you go into the shops, unless you're there at early dawns when the shop opens, you're very unlikely to get all the things that you need. Loo roll is still a scarce commodity, as is the kitchen towel. I feel as though I'm quite lucky. We have managed to get some loo roll prior to the stockpiling. We just got to hope that lasts. But with 2 adults in the house and 2 children, I kind of like feel as though I need to get to the shops really early and get some more loo roll. But I'm not panicking over that yet. Fresh bread, or just bread in general, that seems to be another high commodity. Whenever I've been to the shops, it's always gone. So that's something I have to think about. I do have a bread maker. So I'm going to have to look and using that and get the kids out and help them with that. But it's just really crazy. Things are just going really badly. I don't know if badly is the right word, but I think we've gone from one extreme. We had to start working from home. And that in itself, I think for a lot of the people that I work with, it's like, yeah, we can work from home, don't have to travel. This is now our second full week of working from home, and I think it's starting to get to people, being in your house, not really going out. We had schools closed as of Friday in the UK. So that's another situation for those parents. I mean, I don't know if those parents who are working, who still have to go into work because they can't work from home, and then they've got their childcare arrangements in disarray. And alongside that, we've actually got to homeschool the kids. So the 2 young grandkids are at home. So we started, obviously the school sent out all the relevant packs for them. They've got all their logins. So we're trying to get a routine for them so that they can work for the first 3 hours in the morning while they're nice and fresh. And then they can do a lot more relaxing and play fun things in the afternoon. I think my daughter is finding it kind of stressful and having them around full time. I think they are just being boisterous. Their attention span is even worse now they're at home than when they're at school. But I think it's challenging, not just for us, but I think it's going to be challenging for all parents, and especially those who have to combine work with looking after the kids. I know that when I've worked from home before this situation arose and the kids were on holiday, they're in and out, I would have face-to-face Zoom calls with my people at work, managers, etc. And then the youngest will try and get her face into the camera and just want to play. And it's like, no, I'm trying to work. And she's trying to mouth it. And so many times I had to just turn the camera off and go mute and just like take her outside. So now that we're in this situation, and it's even to the extreme now, we are in lockdown in the UK as of yesterday. It's very much about how do we manage as normal? How do you do business as normal? And the answer is there is no normal. I think we're all making this up as we go along and making the best of a bad situation. So whether you're having to work from home, that you never used to have to do, if you've got your kids or your grandkids, your nieces and nephews around, it's a different world, a different ball game. I think for the kids, they're just thinking it's fun. They don't have to go to school, they don't have to get up as early. They can just do a little bit of schoolwork and play, but I think eventually even they're going to get bored. Having a younger sibling and an older one, you can't, if you've got an age gap, they want to do different things. I know definitely my 2 grandkids, 6 and 9, the youngest one just wants to play all the time, while the oldest one just wants to play on her laptop and play her games or whatever, and it's just like, play together. And it's like, I don't want to play with my dolls, I'm bored. So I mean, there's just lots of different challenges. I think especially for parents who do have young kids, or even just kids in general, if you don't have that garden, that outside space, that makes it even more difficult. And especially as we are restricted when you go out, we're not encouraged to go to parks. So how are you going to keep them amused outside? I think it's going to be really challenging times. And I think we're all going to have to be creative. We're all going to have to be working together a lot more, being a bit more social, helping each other out just to get through these difficult times. I mean, when we talk about where we are today, it's, as I said, working from home for the last 2 weeks and going into lockdown now, and they're looking at 3 months as a minimum, but nobody knows if that's the reality. If that 3 months becomes 4 months, 5 months. From a school point of view, I've had different conversations, different suggestions coming out that they may not be going back to school until September. So they've already cancelled all the GCSEs and A levels. So that's a massive impact on those teenagers at that point. Not having school for kids until September, that's almost 6 months. And that's if things have got to a steady situation where we can get back as a normal society. So I think these days are trying. It's difficult, it's new for a lot of people, and things evolve. I mean, I think the buzzword at the moment is fluid. It's a fluid situation, and it is. It's changing from day to day. The advice from the government, I think, started off being very softly, trying to like manage us and allow us that freedom. But events over the weekend, I think, just pushed it to such an extent that you had crowds at beaches and parks when we're talking about self-isolation. I mean, mothers say, yeah, but you don't want to go and visit your mum and end up passing the disease and that person passing away or getting seriously ill. I think it's how things evolved at the weekend that really led to the shutdown. And I think that's, you know, grave consequences. You can kind of like think we could have done this a while ago. Should we have done it a month ago? Should we have been a lot more stricter as soon as we had the first few cases in the UK? Would it have made a difference? And we don't know. We suspect that it would have done, but I think now it's enforced upon us, and that everybody now, unless you need to go out for your shopping or for your daily exercise, or you have to travel into work, and I don't know about work, but a lot of places are closing down. We are essentially stuck in our homes and stuck with those people around us. So it's difficult times, challenging times ahead, and I think we've just got to evolve. We've just got to make sure that we look after each other within that household. And for our elderly, whether it's parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, it's about making sure they're safe. I mean, my dad, he's in his 80s, had his birthday at the weekend, and we're unable to go and visit. Obviously, I can go down and visit him as long as I'm like 6 foot away. So I'll be in a room and be on the opposite end. But from the grandkids' perspective, they can't go and visit because they could be potential carriers. And him being at the upper age limit, it's very detrimental to his health. So he's going to miss out on seeing them. And that's, my story is not unique. This is a situation for thousands, if not millions of people across the world who perhaps rely on their parents or grandparents to help out with childcare. And now that kind of source, that kind of support is now being cut off from them. And it makes life difficult. So I think that we're going to be hearing and seeing lots of challenges, lots of different conversations. I think perhaps some heartbreaking conversations. As the virus continues and spreads, we're seeing the death rates increase. And nobody knows how high that's going to go. I mean, there's been speculation from the thousands to the extreme of 500,000 in worst case scenario. And then in best case scenario, I've heard 250,000 people may die. And in the UK, and that's significant. We look over at Italy and Spain, and their death rate has already surpassed, Italy's death rate has already surpassed China's. Spain, you're having hundreds of people pass away each day. It's just truly heartbreaking. And so for us in the UK, we're slightly behind that curve, 2 to 3 weeks from the latest comments that are being made. So it's in these coming weeks, this self-isolation is really going to be looked at to see, has it made a difference? Has it slowed that spread? And alongside that is, how are people coping with being at home without going stir crazy, whether it's because of your kids or because of your family or your partner or whatever. It's going to be tough, but there's so much going on. There's just so many different aspects to the world we're living in today that whether it is 3 months at home or 6 months at home or a year at home, we're going to change as a society. And I think people are going to be changing as well, their ideals, how they view people, how they view themselves as part of the community, how they help out. I mean, one of the questions I have to ask is, if we're doing this social distancing, how are we going to help perhaps those elderly people who may live across the road from us, next door from us, or down the road? How can we support them if we're not really allowed to get too close to them? And how are they being supported? There's thousands and thousands of elderly people in this world, and some who have nobody to look after them or no relations to rely on. Are they all going to get picked up by the government? Are we going to see people who've been forgotten or who have slipped through the net or the cracks? And that's a worrying aspect, that we could have people out there who are vulnerable and who have just gone unnoticed and who perhaps can't even get out to the shops to get their food. So I think us as a society and people have to start thinking about those people who we've seen as we've gone down the road or outside our houses or across the road from us, and thinking and checking in on the ones that we know about. And I think we've just got to become a better caring society. I hope that a lot is being done for the people who are homeless and who sleep on the streets, because they're even more vulnerable. They're out there with all these people who are still going out their day-to-day businesses, and they're more liable to catch the coronavirus. But again, are they going to be caught, or are they just going to slip through the net? There's been a lot of talk about supporting businesses, self-employed, etc. But what is happening to those vulnerable people, those homeless people who aren't in that group, who aren't in that safety net and do not have anybody to support them or look out for them? I hope that our Mayor, Sadiq Khan, is thinking about that and acting on that, and that there is provisions made for the homeless to be given shelter somewhere, somehow. When if we're closing hotels, I'm sure I've read that they're looking at housing people from the homeless there. I think whatever the remedy is, and with all of these businesses that are closing down, we can't forget the homeless. And I think if you're happen to pass by when you're allowed out, either on your daily walk or to the shop, just give a thought for them and do what you can. I know for myself, when I go out, I'm going to be more conscious, make sure they've got some food, if I can get some food, and give them something. And to check to see just locally what's happening. I think we've got to really band together and bring out that community spirit that has previously existed, and I think is needed more even now in the current situation. Things are just changing so rapidly. So I think the message is for everybody to look out for each other, but to also stay safe. Do what you can to keep yourselves and your family safe. And I think it's also talking about your mental health as well. Do what you can to just keep going, keep active, and not let the current situation get you down. And I will be trying to post what I can and trying to give some updates and some positivity out there. So I'm going to close for now. Thank you for watching, and remember, keeping it fresh, keeping it real, and keeping it middle-aged.